A very good morning, dear children. Today we will continue with Chapter 2, Periodic Classification of Elements. In the last class, we had discussed about various techniques of classification that was used by various scientists, from which we learned about the classification of Dobereiner, Newland and Mendeleev. Okay, now the scientific world did not really know about the interior of the atom when Mendeleev had put the periodic table. It was years later that electrons were discovered. So scientists, they all started exploring the relationship between electron number and atomic number. And that was a time when the English scientist Henry Moseley, he had demonstrated with the help of experiments that he did with the basis of X-ray tube that atomic number is nothing but the number that shows you the total proton number or the electron number in an atom. And so he said that atomic number is the more fundamental property. Fundamental means it's a core or it's the most important property of an atom. And so based on the atomic number, he put the elements in increasing order. And then after putting them in the increasing order of the atomic number, he gave the modern periodic law. The modern periodic law states that properties of elements are a periodic function of their atomic number. Here if you see, it's exactly similar to what Mendeleev had given, but the only difference is that Mendeleev told that it is a periodic function of atomic mass. Here Moseley is telling that it is according to the atomic number. What does this statement say? It says that when you are classifying the elements in increasing order of atomic number, that is when you are putting the elements in increasing order of their atomic number, the properties, they tend to repeat after a specific period. Okay, that is what he is telling with the help of this modern periodic law. This modern periodic law is also called the long form of the periodic table. Okay, so the modern periodic table consists of 7 horizontal rows and 18 vertical columns were there. So the periods were 1 to 7 and columns were 1 to 18, or the groups were 1 to 18. Okay. When he arranged them in rows and columns, it actually led to the formation of boxes, and every box gave a particular information. What all the information the box gave? First, it gave atomic number. Second, the symbol. Third, the name. And then the atomic mass. So when you're looking at a box, the first thing that you see is the atomic number. The numbers that you see on the left corner is the atomic number. Then you have a letter which is a symbol. Below the symbol you will have the name written, and then below the name you have the atomic mass written for that particular element. Okay. Now, apart from this 7 rows, there were also 2 rows which were separately shown at the bottom of the periodic table. These were called as lanthanide series and actinide series. Okay. So this is how the modern periodic table looks. Okay, there are total of 118 boxes in the periodic table, including the 2 series. Okay, now the entire periodic table is divided into 4 blocks. S block, which consists of the first and the second group. Okay, now the first group consists of alkali metals. The second group consists of alkaline earth metals. What are these metals? These are the metals which turn red litmus paper into blue, and they also show neutralization reaction. Neutralization reaction means what? It means that these will react with acids and lead to the formation of salt. That is, they'll be able to neutralize it. We have learned about neutralization in the previous classes. So alkali metals and alkaline earth metals, the difference between these two is that alkali metals, they are softer and lightweight and they have low melting point or boiling point, whereas alkaline earth metals, they are much more harder and denser and they have high melting point or boiling point. Okay, so that is my S block. Then we have the D block. The D block elements consists of the groups from 3 to 12. Okay, these are the transition elements. Transition elements means what? These are the elements which are more likely to form covalent compounds. Covalent compounds are those compounds which normally share the electrons between them and they form a bond between the two atoms. Okay, now why are they called as transition? Suppose that you are taking any element which is not a transition element. I'm taking any random element I'm taking, and if I mix it with water, it will dissolve in the water. Correct? Now, if I want to gain that element again, what do? I evaporate the water. When I evaporate the water, I will get water separated from that element which had dissolved earlier. Okay, this is normal scenario. But if I'm taking a transition element, what normally happens is after you dissolve a transition element in water, if you try to evaporate the water, okay, water obviously will get evaporated, but along with that there will be some water molecules which form a bond with this compound. Okay, that means transition elements are those elements which can form a compound even with water, so that after evaporating the water also some molecules of it will remain behind in the form of compound with this transition element. That is the meaning of transition. All right, now in this, if you see, there are two boxes where a star and a hash sign is given. The star sign has a number from 57 to 71 written, and the hash has the numbers 89 to 103 written. What is this? This is nothing but it shows the F block element. The F block, that means the lanthanide and the actinide series actually are present in these boxes. That is an indication of the star and the hash. Okay, if you see lanthanide series, now why is it called lanthanide series? Because it starts with the element lanthanum. And why is it called actinide series? Because it starts with the element actinium. Okay, why is that 57 to 71 shown? Because this lanthanide series also has atomic numbers from 57 to 71. Okay, and why is the actinide series shown as 89 to 103? Because it constitutes the elements which have the atomic number from 89 to 103. Okay, so F block, okay, actually is a part of D block itself. This F block consists of the elements which are called inner transition. Okay, why is it called inner transition? Just to show that it is taken from the D block. That is why inner transition. It is taken from the D block and it has the atomic numbers that fall between the first and the second element in the last two rows of the transition metals. Okay, that is why they are inner transition. Okay, so S block was alkali and alkaline earth metal. D block is transition. F block is inner transition. Now coming to P block. The P block consists of the groups from 13 to 18. Okay, now if you look carefully in this, there is a zigzag line that separates your entire block. Okay, what is the zigzag line indicating? The zigzag line helps us to separate the type of elements in this block. This is a block which consists of metals it consists of non-metals, it consists of metalloids, it consists of halogen, it consists of noble elements. 5 types of elements you will find in this one block. So the zigzag line helps us to separate these type of elements. All those elements which are on the left hand side of the zigzag line are metals. The ones which are on the right hand side are non-metals, and the elements which lie on the border of the zigzag line are metalloids. So on the left is metal, on the right is non-metal, and along the border is the metalloid. Okay, the elements which are in the group 17 are halogens, and the ones which are in group 18 are noble elements. What are halogens? Halogen, the word is suggests that halo stands for salt and gen means generating. These are the elements that react with hydrogen to form strong acids, and from the acids you can make salts. That is why halogen, any element that is capable of making salt, halogen. Okay, the elements react with hydrogen, they form strong acids, and from those strong acids we can have salt. Okay, and noble elements means what? It simply means that they are inert. Inert means they do not take part in any chemical reaction. Okay, so this is how you can actually in general remember the modern periodic table. The one on the left is the S block, which has group 1 and 2. It has alkali and alkaline earth metals. Then we have the D block in the center, which constitutes the groups from 3 to 12. These are the transition elements. In that only you have the F block, which are inner transition elements. Then we have the P block, which is from group 13 to 18. These have metals on the left, metalloids along the border, non-metals on the right. 17th group is the halogen, and 18th group is the noble element. So this is how you remember your modern periodic table. Other than this, like this also, in this form also you can remember. So the modern periodic table has 7 horizontal rows which are called as periods, 18 vertical columns which are called as groups. The total boxes are 118. Okay, the modern periodic table are divided into 4 blocks. S block is the group 1 and 2, which have alkali and alkaline earth metals. D is the group 3 to 12, which are transition elements. P is 13 to 18, which are metals, non-metals, metalloids, halogen and noble elements. And F is the lanthanide and the actinide series, which are also called inner transition elements. Okay, now suppose if I tell you that an element belongs to the group 18, what information does this give you? It helps me to understand that if it belongs to group 18, it means that it is a noble element. Suppose I tell you that an element belongs to group 3, it means it's a transition element. Suppose if I tell you it belongs to group 17, it means it's a non-metal. Okay, so whenever you understand the position of an element in the modern periodic table, it tells you which type of element it is. Not only that, the modern periodic table also helps me to learn and to understand certain characters of that element by understanding which group and which period it is present in. Which are those characters? We understand 5 characters, that is electronic configuration, valency, atomic size, metallic character and non-metallic character. We learn about these characters from the modern periodic table. Okay, so today from these 5 we will be learning the first 2, that is electronic configuration and valency. How we will be doing it is, first I will tell you in general about what is electronic configuration, what is valency. Once you know what is electronic configuration, I'll give you a very general example of sodium and chlorine, and then we will try to understand what we can learn from the modern periodic table. Okay, So first we are going to start with electronic configuration. You have seen this and you know that an atom has a central part which is called as a nucleus, which consists of positively charged proton and neutral neutron. Okay, that is in the center. And you know that there are electrons which are revolving or they are moving around in the specific orbits or shells. But every atom cannot just have one single shell. Atoms can have many shells or many orbits in them. Okay, these orbits are termed or they are labeled as K, L, M, N. Okay, the K is the first shell, that is why small n is 1. L is the second shell, so n is 2. M is the third shell, so n is 3. And N is the fourth shell, so n is 4. Okay, so K, L, M, N, the first, second and the third and the fourth shell of an atom. Okay, every shell cannot accommodate as many number of electrons at once. Every shell has a specific capacity of how many electrons it can actually take into the shell. How do you come to know how many or what is the capacity of the shell? The formula you use to understand what is the capacity of the shell is 2n square. Okay, 2n square, where n is the number of the shell. Which number of the shell are you searching for? Okay, so here if you substitute 2n square, here 2 into 1 square we will give. Why 1? Because we know k is the first shell, that is why given it as 1 square. Okay, so if you go to find this, if you try to solve this, obviously it is 2, which means that the K shell can have 2 electrons revolving in the orbit. That means the capacity is 2. It cannot, it can be 1, it can be 2, it cannot be more than 2. Okay, then L is the second shell. So what will be the electron capacity of the second shell? It is going to be 2 into 2 square. So we know 2 square is 4. So 4 2s are 8. Okay, so how many electrons can the L shell accommodate? 8 electrons. It can be anything from 1 to 8, but not more than 8. Okay, then the M shell is the third shell. So it is going to be 2 into 3 square because it's the third shell. Okay, we know 3 square is 9, 9 2s are 18. So 18 electrons can be accommodated, and the fourth shell is 2 into 4 square. Okay, 4 square is 16, 16 2s are 32. So 32 electrons can be accommodated in the fourth shell. Okay, now even though I say that the electron capacity of the shells are 2, 8, 18 and 32. However, there is one rule you should remember, and that rule is the octet rule. Octet rule says that in the third and the fourth shell, okay, you can even have atoms which have only 8 electrons, but still they tend to be stable. That is the octet rule. If not 18, then 8, or if not 32, then 8. Okay, so that is why it's called octet rule. Octet basically stands for 8. Okay, so M and N, that is the last two shells, even if they do not have, even if the atoms do not have 18 electrons or do not have 32 electrons, it can still be stable with 8 electrons in its shell. Okay, now let us learn the electronic configuration by taking a general example of sodium. Sodium has atomic number of 11. Atomic number means the electron number is 11, the proton number is 11. Okay, so from these 11 electrons that I have to specifically put the electrons in specific shells. So that is my nucleus, and then the first shell I have. In the first shell, that is a K shell, we have seen it cannot accommodate all the electrons, it can accommodate only 2. So from 11 electrons, 2 electrons I will put in the first shell because that is the capacity of the shell. Okay, so 2 electrons I have put in the first shell, remaining 9 electrons I have. Unfortunately, I cannot put 9 electrons in the second shell. Okay, I have put 2 electrons in the first shell. So what do? I open the bracket, I write 2 and put a comma. I'll tell you what it is. For now, just understand you have put 2 electrons in the first shell. So simultaneously, what do? You open the bracket, you write 2 and put a comma. In the second shell, I have remaining how many? 9 electrons I have. I cannot put 9 all of them in the second shell. Why? Because the capacity is 8. So from the 9 electrons, I'm going to put 8 electrons in the second shell. Okay. Now because I've put 8 electrons in the second shell, from the bracket which I had opened and written 2, next to the 2, I will write 8. Okay. 2 electrons I put in the first shell, so I open the bracket and write 2 first. Second shell has 8 electrons, so I put a comma and write 8. Now from the total 11 electrons I had, 10 electrons I have already used up. 2 in the first shell, 8 in the second shell. How many are remaining? Only 1 is remaining, and that 1 I put in the third shell. That is why next to 8 I will write comma 1 and I will close the bracket because the number of electrons total becomes 11. Now this that you have got, that is 281, that is the electronic configuration of sodium. Okay, so what is electronic configuration? It is nothing but it is the arrangement of electrons in the specific shells of the atom. Okay, so when I'm looking at the electronic configuration of sodium, that is 281, what do I understand? I understand that 2 electrons are in the first shell, 8 electrons are in the second shell, and 1 electron is in the third shell, and the atomic number is 11. That is what information I get from electronic configuration. Okay. Similarly, let us do the same thing for chlorine. Chlorine has atomic number of 17, which means electron number is 17. So, in the first orbit, I will be putting 2 electrons because that's the capacity. So, I will write in the bracket 2 comma. Okay. Now, from 17, 2 I have already used up. How many are remaining? 15 are remaining. From 15, I will put 8 in the second shell. So I will write 2 comma 8. Okay. From 17, 10 have been used. That is 8 plus 2. 10 I have already used. How many are remaining? 7. The capacity of the third shell is 8. So I can put anything less than 8. So 7 is less than 8. So I can put 7 electrons in the third shell. So the electronic configuration becomes 287. So what is the electronic configuration telling me? It tells me that there are 2 electrons in the first shell, 8 electrons in the second shell, and 7 electrons in the third shell, and the atomic number is 17. Okay, I hope this general concept of electronic configuration is clear. Now, what we are going to do is we are going to discuss about the elements which are in group 1 and period 2. Why we are taking this? Just for easy understanding. We cannot discuss the entire periodic table. So specifically we will discuss about the elements which are in group 1 and the elements which are in period 2. Okay. Now, suppose that I'm taking the elements in group 1. So we have hydrogen, lithium, sodium and potassium. We will see how they are arranged in the specific shells, how the electrons are arranged and what is the electronic configuration. So hydrogen has the atomic number of 1, which means this is an atom which has only 1 electron. So obviously if it has got only 1 electron, that 1 electron will go into the first shell, that is a K shell, and remaining 3 shells are going to be empty. So what is the electronic configuration of hydrogen? It is 1. Lithium has the atomic number of 3. 3 means what you're going to do, can I put all 3 in the first shell? No. Why I cannot put all 3? Because the capacity is 2. So I will put 2 in the first shell and the remaining 1 will go into the second shell. The third and the fourth shell will be empty and the electronic configuration will be 2, 1. Sodium we have already discussed. From the 11 electrons, 2 is in the first shell, 8 in the second shell, 1 in the third shell, and the last shell remains empty. So the electronic configuration is 281. Okay. Potassium has atomic number of 19. From 19, 2 I put in the first. Okay. Then I put 8. So 9 is remaining. I cannot put all 9 in the in the third shell. So I will put 8 again and 1 in the last shell. Okay. So the electronic configuration becomes 2, 8, 8, 1. Okay. So hydrogen electronic configuration is 1. Lithium is 2, 1. Sodium is 2, 8, 1. Potassium is 2, 8, 8, 1. The same thing which I got just now, that only I have written here. Hydrogen has 1 electron in the first shell. Lithium has 1 electron in the second shell. Sodium has 1 electron in the third shell. And potassium has 1 electron in the fourth shell. I have not shown electrons in the other shells. Why? Just to show that they are completed. Okay. Similarly, let us discuss about the elements which are in period 2. So, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen. These are the elements in period 2. Beryllium has the atomic number of 4. Okay. So, from 4, I can put 2 in the first shell and the remaining 2 in the second shell. The other M and the N shell remains empty. So, electronic configuration will be 2, 2. Okay. Boron has atomic number of 5. From 5, 2 will go into the first shell. The remaining 3 goes into the second shell. Other 2 remain empty. Electronic configuration is 2, 3. Carbon has 6 electrons. From 6 electrons, I will put 2 in the first shell, 4 in the second shell. The other 2 remain empty. So the electronic configuration is 2, 4. Nitrogen has atomic number of 7. From 7, 2 electrons I will put in the first shell, 5 in the second. The other 2 remain empty. So it is 2, 5. Then comes oxygen, which has atomic number of 8, from which I will put 2 in the first shell, 6 in the second shell. Okay. Other 2 shells remain empty, so it becomes 2, 6. So beryllium is 2, 2, boron is 2, 3, carbon is 2, 4, nitrogen is 2, 5, oxygen is 2, 6. Same thing I've shown here. Beryllium has 2 electrons in the second shell, boron 3 electrons in the second shell, carbon 4 electrons in the second shell, nitrogen 5 electrons in the second shell, and oxygen 6 electrons in the second shell. Okay, so this is how we have seen what is the electronic configuration of the elements which are in group 1 and the elements which are in period 2. Okay, now, so if you see hydrogen, hydrogen has 1 shell and it has 1 electron in that 1 shell. Lithium has 2 shells and it has 1 electron in the second shell. Sodium has 3 shell and it has 1 electron in the third shell. Potassium has 4 shell and 1 electron in the fourth shell. Always remember, the electron which is in the outermost shell is called as the valence electron. Okay, if any atom has 2 electrons in the outermost shell, what is the number of valence electrons? It is 2. So how many ever number of electrons are there in the outermost shell, that number becomes a number of valence electrons. The electrons in the outermost shell are called valence electrons. So if you compare group 1, you will understand that all of them have same number of valence electron. That is, all of them have 1 electron in the outermost shell. Now if you compare the elements of period 2, beryllium has 2 shells and 2 valence electrons. Boron has 2 shells and 3 valence electron. Carbon has 2 shells and 4 valence electron. Nitrogen has 2 shells and 5 valence electron. Oxygen has 2 shells and 6 valence electron. Okay, so this is what is common. As I already told you, group 1 has the valence electron common, and period 2 has the number of shells common. Okay, so you can say that group is going to give you the idea of the valence electron, and period will give you the idea about the number of shells or the number of orbits. That is why it's called group 1, because all of them have the valence electron as 1. So when I say an element is from group 1, it means that obviously there is one electron in the outermost shell. Okay, and when I say that the element is from period 2, it means that it has two shells. That is why period 2, it stands for two shells. Okay, so if you look at electronic configuration, what is happening when you're going down the group? The shells are increasing, but valence electron remains the same. Okay, and what do you see when you're going from left to right in a period? That the shells will remain constant, but valence electron increases. That is why what is the character of electronic configuration showing us that in a group shells will go on increasing as you're going down the group, but valence electron remains the same. And in the period when you're going from left to right in a period, the shells will remain the same, but the valence electron will keep increasing. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now going on to valency. Same procedure we will follow. First we'll explain what is valency. We will see it with the basis of sodium and chlorine, and then we will see how it is in the group 1 and period 2. So, we are going to discuss it along with the help of the example of sodium. You already know now how you have got this particular structure of 281, how we have got it, you know. Now, this sodium atom, it is not stable. Why do I say it is not stable? Because it has three shells. The first shell, the capacity is full. The second shell also capacity is full. But the third shell capacity is not full. The third shell actually should have 8 electrons, but it has only 1. That is why it is said to be unstable. Okay, every atom has the tendency to either accept electron or to give electron, okay, just to make sure that it becomes stable. Okay, so the sodium atom has electronic configuration of 281. Now it has two options. Either it can attain 288 if it accepts 7 electrons from any other atom. It can get converted into the electronic configuration of 288 and it can become stable. Or else what it can do, it can give away that one electron which is in the outermost shell, and it can attain the configuration of 2 8 and become stable. Okay, so obviously what is most simple, it is not going to keep on accepting 7 electrons, but what it will do is it will give away that one electron which is in the outermost shell so that it becomes stable. And that is what sodium does. That is, it attains the electronic configuration of 2 8 by giving away one electron. So it is going to give away this one electron, and it's going to end up with only two shells with complete capacity. So earlier it was 281, but then it becomes 28. Okay, now what is going to actually happen is, earlier when it had all the three shells, it had 11 electrons and 11 protons, because we already saw that the atomic number is 11, so it has 11 electrons and 11 protons. But after it gave away one electron, it became 10 electrons and 11 protons. Nothing has happened to the protons, but the number of electron has reduced by 1. Okay, now if you actually look at this carefully, you will see that there's a difference in the charge. That is, electrons, they are negatively charged and protons positively charged. We've already seen this. But the difference between them is what? That it has one extra positive charge, that is plus 1. So plus 1 becomes the valency of sodium. Okay, I hope this is clear. So what is valency? Valency is simply the number of electrons which an atom can give or take to make sure that it remains stable. That is valency. Okay, so sodium has given away one electron to attain a stable electronic configuration. Okay, we'll discuss about chlorine also. Okay, now chlorine has the electronic configuration of 287. Now here also it wants to become stable. Okay, so there are two options it has got. Either it can accept one electron and become 288, or it can give away 7 electrons in the outermost shell and become 28. It has two options. I repeat again. One is it can take one electron and become 288, or it can give 7 electrons and become 28. Now in this case, chlorine obviously is going to accept one electron because that is more simple than giving away 7 electrons. So it is going to accept one electron and become 288. Okay, so let's see how it's going to do this. So it is taking an electron from the environment or from any other atom it takes, and this is how the electronic configuration was 287 that gets converted into 288. Okay, now initially we had it to be 17 electrons and 17 protons, but when it accepted an electron, that time it has become 18 electrons and 17 protons. Okay, now if you look at this, which we have right now got, the difference between the two is 1, that is 17 and 18. So the difference is 1. And which charge is more, electrons or protons? Electrons are more. So negative charge is more. So that means minus 1. Okay, so minus 1 becomes the valency of chlorine. That means it had to take one electron to attain the stable electronic configuration. Alright. So now coming to group 1 and period 2, we are going to learn on the basis of this. So this which we have already seen, you all know this. Okay. Now, if you see in the first group, all the elements, that is lithium, sodium, potassium, all of them have one valence electron. So what they're going to do, all of them are going to give away that one electron to attain stable electronic configuration. So all of them will give away. So all of them who are in group 1, all the elements have the valency of plus 1. Okay, there is no change as you're going down the group, no changes you will see. All the elements in group 1 have valency 1. Okay, now if you see for the elements in period 2, the first one, beryllium. Beryllium has how many valence electrons? It has 2 valence electron. So what it will do? It will give away the 2 electrons which it has got. If you look at boron, boron has 3 valence electrons. So what it will do? It will give away the 3 electron. Carbon, what it will do? It has 4 electrons. So what it can do? It can take 4 electron or give 4 electron. Nitrogen has 5 electrons. Now if you see what is happening, as the number of valence electrons are increasing, it is becoming more and more difficult for the atom to give away that many number of electrons. Okay, so nitrogen, instead of giving away 5, it will take 3 because that is more simple. Okay, similarly oxygen has 6 electrons. It cannot give that many electrons, so it will take 2 electrons. So if you look at the period, what is happening in the elements, the valency is increasing from 1 to 4, and then from 4 to 1 it will decrease. Okay, so in a period when you're going from left hand side to right hand side, it will increase from 1 to 4, and then from 4 it will decrease. So there's an increase in the valency and then decrease in the valency. Okay, so we can write down in valency that in a group what is happening, valency remains constant down the group. There is no change happening. But what is happening in a period, from left to right when you're moving, the valency first increases and then it decreases. So today what we have learned is, we have learned the characters of electronic configuration and valency, and we see how they vary in a group and in a period. Okay, in the next class we'll be discussing about the remaining three characters and see how they vary in the group and the period, and what information we can get from the elements arrangement in the modern periodic table. Okay, I hope what was done today was clear. Thank you.